Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Quilt Fest Live. This is Diana Mercuri, and I am here with a very special instructor today, Jenny K. Lyon, who is teaching for us at our upcoming Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival online coming up this February at the end of 24th to 27th. Jenny, how are you today?
I'm doing great. We've got a sunny day in Northern California, and I get to talk about myself, so I'm doing great.
Oh, Northern California, is it nice and warm there?
Yes, it is, and it's going to be in the mid-60s today, and a lot of times in Northern California in the winter, if you have too much nice weather, you get worried because we need the water so that we have electricity and water in the summer, but it's been pretty good. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at about, 12 inches of snow outside my window right now. So I am very jealous.
I remember those days.
Well, we're going to start this interview by talking a little bit about your background. Can you give us a little tidbit about what you've done in the past?
Sure. I'm, like the brief bio is I'm from North Central Illinois, born and raised there. And since then we've lived in, New Mexico, North Carolina, New Jersey, and did I say New Mexico? And Texas, California, and I've been in California now for 21 years. And so been quilting basically since, I come from a long line of quilters, but I've been quilting myself since pretty much since I arrived in California 21 years ago. So that's
wow. Well, so who taught you how to sew?
My mother. I come from I'm the fourth generation quilter. Those before me made bed quilts, and they thought it was very curious that you would make a quilt for any other purpose than to go on a bed. But it was the type of culture where you just did things with a needle. I remember I was the youngest, so I saw my two older sisters sew on the machine and start making their own clothes. And I really do remember this. I remember asking my mother, isn't it about time that I learned how to sew? And so, did the typical things of that age, the needlepoint and the crochet, and sewed my own clothes. And I like to create. I just do. So I learned from her, but I didn't learn quilting from my mother.
So that's where you are today as a nationally, internationally known quilter and instructor. So how did you get into the world of quilting and textile arts?
The real story is kind of funny because my husband watches a lot of football and I don't. And I thought, what can I do that's in the house that I enjoy doing while he is watching football? And honestly, I almost forgot that was really the very kernel of what started me quilting. And when we moved to California, there's, a quilt shop, and they had this cool, cute quilt that they were doing a class on. And so that kind of started me, and it just unleashed something in me. I just loved quilting, and I loved creating, and I could take a pattern and make it my own and all that kind of thing. It just started me on a path that I just kind of follow what the next step is. I didn't have any grand plan. I didn't think, I want to teach someday. It's just step after step after step. And here I am teaching.
Well, that's exciting. Well, so how do you think your quilting style has evolved since you were, sitting on the couch, quilting while or sewing while your husband was watching football, to where you are now, teaching, domestic machine, free motion?
That's interesting. It's interesting how all of us evolve. I started out, doing traditional quilts and patterns, and I just didn't like to follow the pattern. I think, like a lot of people, at first, I would say, go to a quilt show and I'd see some amazing applique and I go, oh, I have to learn how to applique. And then I'd see some amazing paper piecing and I go, oh, I have to learn how to paper piece. And then I'd see quilting and I'd have to learn how to do that. And I think a lot of us go through that phase where it's like, shiny object, go after whichever one. But then you begin to feel, in your heart, like, oh, this is what I like to do. And it wasn't any epiphany or anything. It just got to the point where it's like, oh, you know what? I think part of it is that I do piece. I just didn't want piecing to be the primary thing that I did. So that's how quilting evolved. And for me, quilting releases some artistic desire in me to put my signature, so to speak, on that quilt. So that's kind of how I stumbled into free motion. And the other thing was, actually, I forgot this, money. Money was a factor. You begin to make all these quilt tops, and even if you pay someone for edge to edge, when you've got to stack this high, you begin to realize that's a lot of money, and I didn't have that kind of money at the time. And I did what I call a foot stomp. It's like, well, no matter what, I'm just not going to pay somebody to quilt my quilts. That's what I just resolved that. And so, of course, my first ones were quite rickety, but you have to have what I call the visible learning curve. You have to go through the visible learning curve, which I did and just kept going. So that's kind of my story of how I ended up.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you started teaching. Tell us a little bit how you got into, teaching, nationally and even locally.
So that I realized, looking back on this, there was a kernel that started way back before I did one quilt in the mid 80s. And let's see, it would have been before that I was, my degree is actually in accounting. I know, go figure. And there was an offer in class of, if you want to, you can lead the class one day in a particular subject, and you could sign up for a particular subject. And so I know this sounds so mundane, but it cost a goods sold. I thought, oh, okay, I could do that. And I just prepared the heck out of it. And I just knocked it out of the park. And then I got that feedback from students that was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I like this feeling. And so that kernel was there. And so then when I started feeling like I knew enough to pass on to other people, it kind of just emerged. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And the first thing I taught was when the machine needle felting machines were brand new. So I taught a class in that, and that was, just kind of set me on a path, because I enjoyed that. I enjoyed enabling other people to complete their own vision of what they want on their quilts. So,
and that is really something, that is really the thoughts of a teacher, someone that's looking to, help students or help, artists, enrich their art and, do better and learn new things. So sounds like it was natural for you.
It was, and I really enjoy it, and it's very challenging, and it keeps my world big. It really does, because when you're teaching, I've just had the most amazing things happen when I'm teaching, as all teachers, I think, that have taught for a while, just people that, I've had just people that I remember stories like, this is the anniversary of my husband's death, and I didn't want to be at home. Or I've had all kinds of people in class like that, where you just think, oh, what a cool community we are of quilters, that we know we can gather together in a class or something that's kind of like a safe and happy space. So I love that. I love different people. I like to travel. And so all that's just good and fun to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you say community, because I think that is a big thing, especially today, is having that community and having those, even virtual classes, so that people can still feel part of something, even though they are, stuck in their own home, staying safe. So
absolutely. I think it's so important. I do not know I do not know how I could have done this without everything that I have here at home. You know, I'm well equipped, like most of us are, you know, well equipped. It's like, I don't know how I would have done that. What would I have done all day?
Right.
I don't know. So,
right.
Yeah,
well, I think it is a nice comfort and, you know, something for people to do, you know, to pass the time that they enjoy, which is really nice. With a lot of times we don't have time to do those things. So
exactly.
Well, so speaking of teaching, you are teaching for us. You're teaching 3 workshops coming up at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival online. You're teaching Yes, You Can Free Motion Quilt on Wednesday, the 24th, and that is a full day class, 12 to 6. You are teaching the free motion cut work, the daisy table topper, and that's a half day workshop on Thursday, the 25th from 12 to 3. And then there's the fearless free motion fills and frills. That is a mouthful. And it is going to be presented on February 26th from 10 to 4. That's another full day. Jenny, can you please tell us a little bit more in detail about those classes?
Yeah, I'd love to. Should I go ahead and reverse my camera and have or should I reverse and show the sample? Okay.
Absolutely.
Give me a second, I'll do that and then I'll walk over. And sometimes it doesn't want to reverse the camera. There we go.
Yep.
Okay, let me walk over. And so on the, oops, it's hard because it's a little picture. So on the first day, I'm going to be teaching this class, Yes, You Can Free Motion Quilt. And I do teach this differently than most teachers. This is an intro to free motion quilting class. Should have had something to put this on. Well, I'll be a little wobbly here as I hold it, so forgive me. So here's the deal about this class. I very deliberately call it Yes, You Can Free Motion Quilt because it is, all about, I take you from the beginning and I walk you through the whole process, the details, the things that you might not know are important to make it a more pleasurable experience. It's just a lot of fun, and I do teach it differently than most. We are going to do all 5 of these designs in a beginner class, and I do that because each one of these has within it a skill set that'll be useful as you go forward, no matter what you're quilting. So that's why I do it that way. So I call it pulse, like P-U-L-S-E. We pulse through each one. And I have, so that you can see it really clearly, I have some pre-recorded videos of the actual stitching part. And then I have all kinds of things that I show about thread and batting and all those kind of things. And I also think, importantly, that I show you what not to do. Because the thing is, you learn actually more from seeing what not to do and seeing what happens than you do from seeing a perfectly quilted quilt. So that's kind of my summary of that. And a lot of people seem to have a doubt whether you can learn to free motion quilt online and the answer is a resounding, oh yes. You are at home. You didn't forget your glasses or your power cord. You didn't have to lug your 35-pound machine. And you don't get intimidated by the woman next to you who's actually been quilting for 1 year and makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. So I think I delight in teaching this class online. So that's that one. Mm-hmm. Should I move on?
Yes, move on. Yeah.
Okay. So this one is Fills and Frills. And this is a 6-hour class, and I'll try and come in a little closer and kind of cruise through some of them as tall as I can get here. So we're going to do a variety of fills and frills. So we're going to do some fillers, some dividers, some borders, just a variety of things, because here's the deal. You have so much more fun quilting when you have a variety of things to choose from. So, and it also makes it more personal in how you combine these things. So I'll be talking about not just the design itself, but I'll be talking about where it goes, a little bit about how you can combine them, And I will have some pre-recorded videos of the actual stitching, and that way I've got perfect lighting, perfect visuals for you to see what I'm doing. So
that's great.
And this one, I forgot to move my iron, so forgive me, my iron's in the way. But this one is the half-day class, which is the table topper, Lazy Daisy table topper. This is, I really want to talk a little bit about this. This is reversible. So you could make this like a holiday theme where one side is spring, one side is fall, or you could just have different decor in different rooms so that you could, do it that way. It's cool because your table, whatever color it is going to show through, or whatever cloth you've got underneath. But what I really want to talk about is this is a place to start on cut work. I'm not sure if you can. I can't pull in closer. Let me pull in closer there. I don't know if you can tell, but my stitching lines, I am not exactly hitting my previous stitching line. This is a super forgiving technique. You do not have to be totally accurate and finessed. So I like that about that. And so that same technique is so versatile. So I don't know how well this is going to show on camera, but this is a scarf that I've made from the same technique.
That's great. So you can do a lot of things with the cut work.
And I can also, and I think you've got a slide. You can do actual quilts. And I think you've got a slide that shows this is a jean jacket. This is a project in my book. So, so the point of all that is, and I'll come back. I need my little thingy to make me come back to my self here. There we go. So the point on all that is you're making a table topper in class, but it's a really versatile technique, and it can be used on ready-made clothing to do things like have a fun little collar or a cute little yoke or a button placket or the hem of a skirt, and I'll show all that in class, all the different things you can do with that one. So that's kind of a summary of my classes that I'm teaching.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great explanation. The classes seem very, very cool. And especially the cut work, I think a lot of people are saying, what could I use that for right now? For clothing and scarves and, home decor. I bet there's like the possibilities are endless.
They are.
So you have a website, thequiltskipper.com. Yes. Where does the Quilt Skipper come from?
Oh, okay. So when it came from an incident that happened, I'd been free motion quilting like 3 years. And, like anything, it takes a while to ramp up. And I had gotten to a point where I was doing pretty well. And I was doing a particular quilt. It was a large quilt, and it was all silk. And it was just luscious. And I'd look at what I was quilting and I'd go, oh, that's so cool. And I'd take my quilting breaks and I'd skip around the house because I was so excited about what I was doing. So that's when I decided to call myself the Quilt Skipper, which is a little hokey, but it is for real. I really do, when something excites me, when I'm really happy with how it's turned out and it's really beautiful and cool, I skip around the house.
I think that's awesome. And I think, that is that's a great showing of just like how excited you get about, your artwork and how, the passion that you have for it.
Yeah.
When it really still like makes you so happy that you skip around the house. I mean, that, I wish that, I felt like that about house cleaning, but, it doesn't work out that way.
No, can't help you there.
So what is your favorite place in the world to travel to?
Oh gosh, anywhere. Almost.
We do have some images, a lot of West Coast and Tucson, Tahoe.
Couple of things. It's almost like it's more of a category than a place. So there's all kinds of different travel I like. I like to cruise. Like that'll ever happen again, I don't know. I like car trips where I could take my machine, which my husband just, just rolls his head and goes like this, like, we're going away for 4 days and the entire back, I've got my table, because you have to have the table for your machine. You have to have a backup machine. You have to have, you have to have all this stuff. Because I think that one image shows me, I happen to be in Bend, Oregon, and my machine is set up and I'm looking over the Deschutes River. I mean, I'm sorry, but how much cooler can that get? Or I've done retreats, like personal retreats with friends up at Tahoe, where you've got a view of the lake. I've done retreats in mid-coast of California. It's just a really unique kind of beauty. Tucson, my son lives there. Sabino Canyon is just the coolest place to hike. I do love that desert landscape. And of course it helps that a son lives there. And, it's interesting when I travel to teach and lecture, a lot of times when they're car trips, it'll be some, pretty small town. And I do my little Wikipedia research and, almost every town has something cool about it. It might be subtle, but I don't know, maybe it's because I'm from the Midwest. I just like to travel and meet people and go to places that I wouldn't have thought to go to on my own. Like I wouldn't go vacation in one of those small towns, maybe in Central California, but to go there and meet the people and teach and get to know them, it's cool. So I just like to travel. I just like to travel and meet people.
Do your travel destinations ever influence your artwork?
Yes. I can't think of a good example, but it definitely does. When I go to teach and they ask me if I have time off, they ask me, what do you want to do? And they might suggest a quilt shop. I'm like, oh, well, actually one of two things. Either is there an art museum or is there a cool hike somewhere around here? So that's typically what I want to do. I have to say I have this dream that's probably a pipe dream, but I would love to teach overseas. And because when you travel to teach, you're not a tourist, you're a traveler. And so you're going to see that destination through the eyes of the locals in a very genuine way, as opposed to, the guy on the, intercom talking about, to your right. And there's some places I'd love to go that I'm almost won't say them out loud, lest I, anyway, I would love to.
Well, maybe one day, you never know.
I hope so. Yes, definitely.
Well, what do you do when you're not quilting?
I like to be outside. I like to walk. I like to hike. I don't backpack anymore, but I like to be outside. I like to ski. I usually only get up like 2-3 times a year, so it's not like I'm this hardcore skier, but I do love to ski. I love adventure. I like, amusement parks. I like, and I like family. I like to see my family. The best vacations are ones where we've rented a big house and it's the whole family and girlfriends or wives or whatever. I like friends, hanging out with friends. Mm-hmm. It's kind of simple.
What was it like growing up with 3 males in the house?
Yeah, that gets overwhelming sometimes, but they put up with me. I don't know any other way, so I don't know what it's like. Is there another way?
I'm sure that they all still listen to you. Oh, you are still the boss.
They do. They hang on my every word like all men do.
Well, what I usually end interviews with asking this question: what is an interesting fact about yourself that not many people know?
Oh gosh, yeah. I almost had to. Did I take notes on this? Because I kind of didn't know how to answer. Oh, okay. So I have been to all 50 states.
Oh, wow.
Because we've lived different places. And part of the reason I've been to 50 states is because in my 20s, I put myself through school and I ran out of money after 3 semesters in college. I did go back and finish, but at that time I ran out of money. So you have to think about having a 21-year-old mind. Or 20, I forget. So my 20-year-old mind said, motorcycle is cheaper than a car. So I'm going to get a motorcycle. So I got a motorcycle, and then I ended up taking 2 trips by myself, several thousand miles, mainly Western US. And so that took me to a lot of states also, and that was a fun adventure. And I'm sure there are other terribly fascinating things about me, but that's what I think.
Well,
about.
no, that's pretty cool. There's not many people, I think, that could say that have been to all 50 states. So
yeah, it's funny, and I haven't been to Europe. And it's just the time when hubby and I were talking about, starting to do some international travel. That's when terrorism and all that came in, and he's more reluctant than I. So I still want to do that international travel. I hope that opens up. We will all have to wait and see how that works. But yeah, I'd love to get out there.
Well, so I hope that you get to travel internationally at some point in your life. It's It is a great experience. But to be able to see every state in your home, your home country, that's pretty amazing too.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
Jenny, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and interviewing with me. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you a little better. If everyone that's watching here today, if you are interested in taking any of Jenny K. Lyon's workshops, please go to www.quiltfest.com. And if you click on Online Quilt Festival and then Workshops by Instructor and search for Jenny's name under her picture, you should be able to view her workshops and read about them and sign up there. Thank you so much again, Jenny, and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you,
Bye,
Diana.
everyone.
It's a pleasure.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.